Who is the most recognized face in the world? Is it a pop star? A head of state? Or is it a completely fictional character? The answer is, perhaps, none of them. And at the same time, all of them. With his red coat and white beard, he is a figure who transcends borders, languages, and cultures. A symbol etched into the collective memory of billions of people. For some, he is the representative of generosity and goodness. For others, a face of the modern world's consumer culture. But behind this legend, there is a real person who lived centuries ago. Today, we will trace this incredible journey from a religious figure to a global icon. Welcome to the true story of Santa Claus. That is, Saint Nicholas. In this video, we will take a close look at the real person behind the figure we know as Santa Claus, Saint Nicholas. We will discover the era he lived in, the society he belonged to, and why he has not been forgotten for centuries. Separating legends from facts, we will examine together how this character changed across different cultures, how he turned into a global icon, and why he still carries such a powerful meaning today. As we continue on this journey, if you would like to support us, you can subscribe to our channel, like our video, and share your comments. Thank you very much in advance. Let's get started. Part 1, A Real Saint, the Bishop of Myra. Our story does not begin with reindeer wandering through snowy pine forests or over glaciers, as most people imagine. On the contrary, it begins in sun-scorched lands, in a port city carrying the salty wind of the Mediterranean. We are in the 4th century. The Roman Empire is experiencing one of the greatest transformations in its history. Right in this period, a man steps onto the stage who was born in Patara, within the borders of present-day Turkey, and served as a bishop in Myra, known today as Demre, Nicholas. Although historical records are limited, there is strong evidence for Nicholas's existence. However, he was far removed from the fairy tale figure we know in the modern world. Nicholas possessed a sense of justice far ahead of his time. Despite coming from a wealthy family, he chose to distribute his entire fortune to the poor. He was a clergyman known for his stern temperament but respected for his compassion. It wasn't just his benevolence that made him different. According to historians, Nicholas was extremely passionate about his beliefs. During the Council of Nicaea held in AD 325, it is even rumored that during a heated argument with Arius, whose teachings he viewed as heresy, he slapped him in front of everyone. This event shows that he was not a calm saint, but a figure who took action for the values he believed in. Nicholas was remembered as the protector not only of children but also of unjustly imprisoned convicts, sailors caught in storms at sea, and the desperate. However, the event that made him a legend was neither miraculous journeys nor fairy tale beings. At the heart of the legend was an act of kindness performed in silence. According to the rumor, a poor father living in Myra cannot find the dowry money to marry off his 3 daughters, so a grim fate awaits them. Learning of this, Bishop Nicholas decides to save the family's honor. But he does this by concealing his identity. In the dark of night, he drops a pouch of gold through the window of the house. This event repeats for 3 nights in a row. Here lies the origin of the stocking hung by the fireplace tradition that is still told today. According to the rumor, one of the thrown gold pieces falls into a stocking hung by the fireplace to dry. When Nicholas died, his tomb in Myra turned into an important pilgrimage center. The rumor that a liquid called manna, believed to seep from his grave, distributed healing spread his fame to the entire Mediterranean world. Nicholas was now not just a bishop, he was a holy figure in the eyes of the public. And this story would continue to live on centuries later, taking on a completely different identity. Part 2, The Journey of a Legend, Bones and Cultures. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell, borders changed. But Nicholas's story lived on. By 1087, this story entered a new and controversial turn. Italian sailors organized a brave but equally controversial raid on Myra. Their goal was to rescue the bones of Saint Nicholas before the region fell under Muslim control. This event was a rescue operation for some, and blatant holy theft for others. The bones were taken to the city of Bari. This move became one of the most critical moments that carried Nicholas's fame from the eastern Mediterranean to Western Europe. The great basilica built in Bari was soon filled with pilgrims coming from all corners of Europe. Saint Nicholas was now not just a local figure, but a saint recognized across the entire continent. December 6th turned into a special day where children, in particular, received gifts. However, the Protestant Reformation that shook Europe in the 16th century threatened this tradition. The veneration of Catholic saints was banned, and many holy figures were erased from the public memory. But Nicholas managed to survive this cultural storm. The people did not give up on the idea of generosity and protection he represented. Especially in the Netherlands, the story took on a completely different identity. Here, Nicholas began to be referred to as Sinterklaas. According to rumors, Sinterklaas would come by ship from Spain, ride a white horse, and be accompanied by a helper named Zwart Piet, or Black Peter. This figure became one of the most direct ancestors of the modern Santa Claus. The legend's greatest transformation occurred across the ocean. In the 17th century, Dutch immigrants carried the Sinterklaas tradition to the New World, to what is known today as New York, then known as New Amsterdam. But America was a melting pot where different cultures blended together. Here, Sinterklaas began to merge with the British Father Christmas figure and Scandinavian winter solstice traditions. The Dutch name, Sinterklaas, rolled off the American tongue and eventually turned into Santa Claus. However, this new figure was not yet the cheerful and cute character we know today. In some depictions, he appeared as a dwarf, and in others as a supernatural spirit who scared children. The legend was continuing its journey. And what would truly change him was no longer faith, but imagination and media. Part 3, The Red-Suited Icon, the construction of the image. So, how did that familiar figure we picture in our minds today, the red-suited, white-bearded, cheerful grandpa image emerge? At this point, it is necessary to correct a common urban legend. Coca-Cola did not invent Santa Claus. Nor does he owe his red color to them. Looking at historical records, the red cape and white beard were symbols used since Saint Nicholas's bishop robes. However, this figure becoming what it is today was not a single moment, it was the result of a visual construction process spanning centuries. The first big step in this process was taken through literature. In 1822, American writer Clement Clark Moore, in a poem he wrote, transformed Saint Nicholas from a serious clergyman into a cheerful and elderly character. The 8 flying reindeer, the idea of entering the house through the chimney, and the tradition of distributing gifts on Christmas Eve spread to the masses for the first time with this text. One name stood out in shaping the visual identity, cartoonist Thomas Nast. With the illustrations he drew in the mid-19th century, he gave Santa Claus a home at the North Pole. He gave him a workshop, toys, and his famous list where he separated the good children from the naughty ones. Santa Claus now had a world he lived in. But the step that turned this figure into a globally recognized icon was taken in the 20th century. In 1931, Coca-Cola began working with artist Haddon Sundblom. Sundblom removed Santa Claus from being an elf or a fairy tale being and depicted him like a real human. A figure with rosy cheeks, a smiling face, a slightly wobbling belly. Familiar enough to shop at the grocery store, this depiction was so warm, so sincere, that it was accepted worldwide as the real appearance of Santa Claus. Saint Nicholas had now become the star of the modern world, advertisements, and popular culture, rather than a mystical saint. And thus, a bishop living on the Mediterranean coast centuries ago had transformed into a red-suited global icon. Part 4, On a World Tour, Different Faces, Different Beliefs. Santa Claus may have turned into a global figure. However, the peoples of the world have not completely abandoned their own winter heroes. The same story continues to live with different faces in different geographies. Now, let's take a short world tour with Santa's sleigh. Our journey begins in the skies of Russia. Here, we encounter Dead Moros, that is, Father Frost. Dead Moros is a figure taller than Santa Claus, more serious, and usually wearing blue or white furs. He does not distribute gifts alone, he is accompanied by his granddaughter Sneguraka, the Snow Maiden. In Russian culture, this duo are not just characters who bring gifts to children, they are symbols representing the power and discipline of winter. When we land in Italy, the picture changes completely. Here, the one bringing gifts is neither a bearded man nor are there reindeer. Instead, there is La Befana. La Befana is depicted as an old witch flying on her broomstick. According to the legend, this witch, who sets out to find baby Jesus, cannot find him. However, out of regret, she visits every house and leaves gifts for the children. In Italy, this figure is the symbol of being flawed but well-intentioned. As we move north, towards Iceland, things get even more interesting. There isn't just one Santa Claus here. There are exactly 13 Yule lads. Each of these troll-like figures, who come down from the mountains one by one, has a unique, peculiar habit. Some slam doors, some lick pots, some spy on people through windows. In Icelandic tradition, these characters teach children lessons that are both entertaining and slightly scary. The last stop of the journey is Japan. Here, Christmas has turned into a romantic celebration rather than a religious holiday. Couples spend time together, walk under the lights. And surprisingly, eating KFC on Christmas night has become almost a national ritual. This tradition is one of the most striking examples of modern marketing and cultural adaptation. These different figures and rituals demonstrate a single truth. People have never given up seeking hope, sharing, and joy in the darkness of winter. Although names, outfits, and stories change, the emotion told is the same. And perhaps because of this, Santa Claus's story does not belong to a single place. He continues to live in every corner of the world, with a different face. Part 5, The Psychology of Magic. Is it a lie or a fairy tale? Now, let's leave history and geography aside and delve into the depths of the human mind. With a simple but disturbing question, why do millions of parents around the world tell the same story about a non-existent man to their children? At first glance, this might seem like an organized lie. However, according to psychologists, the Santa Claus legend is much more than a simple deception. This story appeals to the magical thinking period, which has an important place in children's development. In this period, children make sense of the world not only with logic but with imagination, symbols, and emotions. Santa Claus is the concrete equivalent of abstract concepts in a child's mind. The ideas of goodness, generosity, giving without expecting anything in return, and making others happy are embodied in a single character. The biggest worry of parents is this. Will children be disappointed when they learn the truth? Is this fairy tale an illusion destined to be shattered one day? Research shows that the situation is quite different than assumed. For most children, discovering the truth about Santa Claus is not a trauma, but a rite of passage. That moment is not a loss for the child, it is a transition. The feeling of, now I know too. The feeling of, I am one step closer to the world of grown-ups. With this awareness, the child ceases to be a passive listener of the story, they become one of those who keep it alive. They continue this fairy tale for their siblings, cousins, or in the future, for their own children. That is why Santa Claus is not a figure belonging only to children. He holds meaning for adults as well. He keeps alive our need to believe in innocence, unseen goodness, and small miracles performed without expectation of return. Perhaps the real question is Santa Claus real? Or with a more accurate question, is it the fact that people still want to believe in goodness that is real? Part 6, The Billion-Dollar Sector, the Christmas Economy. However, this story also has a face that is much more concrete and material than magic. When we put aside its emotional meaning, Santa Claus is one of the most powerful sales representatives in the world today. November and December are the most critical period of the year for the global retail sector. Many brands generate a large portion of their annual revenue in just these few weeks. Shop windows change, advertisements accelerate, shopping malls overflow. Santa Claus becomes the most familiar face of this period. The production mobilization starting months in advance, products coming out of factories, container ships crossing oceans, and the last-minute cargo rush. Santa Claus's sleigh, once told in fairy tales, has transformed today into the massive aircraft fleets and distribution networks of logistics companies. Economists point out that the Santa Claus figure is an extremely powerful symbol that legitimizes consumption. The message is simple. Buy not for yourself, but for your loved ones. This sentence makes wallets open more easily. Spending ceases to be selfishness, it turns into a demonstration of love. However, a disturbing question arises in the middle of this massive economic ecosystem. How much can the fundamental principle of Saint Nicholas, who secretly helped the poor centuries ago, survive in this system? Is the idea of giving without return getting lost among shiny wrapping papers and discount tags? Today, Christmas has become a symbol of excessive consumption for many people. In addition to sharing with loved ones, this situation reveals one of the biggest contradictions of the modern world. How did a story based on sharing come to settle at the center of a trillion-dollar industry? Perhaps this question is not part of Santa Claus's story, but part of ours. Part 7, Controversies and Criticisms, Santa Claus Indiana the Modern World. In the 21st century, Santa Claus is passing not only through chimneys but also through social changes, identity debates, and cultural transformations. As time changes, symbols are also questioned. One of the most striking examples of this is seen in the Netherlands. The helper figure known as Zwarte Piet, or Black Peter, which is part of the Sinterklaas tradition, has been at the center of controversy for years. His portrayal with black face paint is seen by many today as a reflection of a racist and colonial legacy. For this reason, protests have been organized in recent years, and the tradition is being attempted to be reshaped. Similar questions are rising in America and other parts of Europe. Why is Santa Claus always depicted as white? This question is addressed not only as a visual preference but as a matter of representation. From a sociological perspective, Saint Nicholas was of Mediterranean origin and was likely a wheat-skinned person. However, over centuries, Northern European mythology and visual culture reshaped this figure with their own aesthetic understanding. Today, the world is much more global and much more diverse. Children want to see themselves in stories. For this reason, Santa Claus depictions from different ethnic backgrounds, figures using wheelchairs, and more inclusive interpretations are becoming increasingly common. This change does not show that the legend is weakening, on the contrary, it shows that it is alive. Because myths are not frozen statues. They live, transform, and seek answers to the questions of the age together with the societies that believe in them. Santa Claus's story continues to do exactly that. The saint of the 4th century. The protector of the Middle Ages. The gift distributor of the modern age. Saint Nicholas is perhaps one of the people who has made the longest journey in history. But his true identity is not what he wore, where he lived, or how he was depicted. What makes him truly enduring are the values he represents. A hope that warms us on dark winter nights. A symbol of giving without expecting anything in return, of being able to make even a stranger happy, whether he appears in a Coca-Cola commercial or on an icon in Myra. His story reminds us of humanity's most basic need, to believe, and to be loved. Perhaps tonight when you look at the sky, you will see not only the stars but the glitter of this chain of kindness that has lasted for centuries. You can like our video and support the arrival of new content by subscribing to our channel. So glad to have you. Thank you.